eventually get to. What is your general comment on the types of vaccines that are out there, their efficacies that you see? And also, coupled with that, now there have been new guidelines, and we get lots of these new researchers which essentially point to the fact that transmission of this virus is may be airborne. It's not like, the 6 feet guideline that was given initially might not
Yeah.
be good enough. So comments on these two would really help.
So I think when it comes to vaccines, I think those are the life saving things that are available now, and I think it's very important to sort of have a discussion about this. Vaccines, like you guys already know, probably they take about a decade or so to develop a proper vaccine safely and efficaciously. But when it comes to corona, we have obviously we have not had that amount of time, and everything has been sort of expedited, and like emergency approvals have been given, and like different types of vaccines are available. If you look at it, there are say various platforms are available. They can be inactivated vaccines, they can be live attenuated vaccines, they can be mRNA, RNA, or DNA driven vaccines. There are, like, vaccines which have been developed with the help of vectors. Vectors are basically vehicles which carry the vaccine molecule into the body and help create immunity. And there are these vaccines which have been developed based out of recombinant proteins. So these are probably the broad categories under which various companies are sort of working to develop vaccines, I would say. And I think the most common or the most popular ones and the most effective ones so far have been, I would say, Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. These are basically an entirely new technology because nobody has developed a vaccine based on these technologies so far. And these are mRNA vaccines. And at least the data, which is clinical data, which is available so far, has shown that both the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine, they are close to be 95% efficacious. And probably more, Pfizer scores a tiny bit more than Moderna. Pfizer is about 95 and Moderna is about 94% efficacious. And the side effects are not really that bad. Like, there have been minor side effects which are known to be very common with any of these vaccines, to be honest, like fever, myalgia, and local site rash. And these are all very minor when compared to like you catching a coronavirus infection. And at least there have been no sort of significant adverse effects to say that, like, don't take these vaccines. These vaccines are generally very, very effective. But unfortunate, the thing with Pfizer is that it is stored at minus 70 degrees, and I don't think it has got any approval in India so far. And it is difficult to sort of transport it to various places because of the cold chain issues. Moderna is a bit better when it comes to that. It doesn't need minus 70 degrees. It can be easily sort of transported, but I don't think that has got approval in India as of now. And the other one is the Johnson and Johnson vaccine, or the Janssen vaccine, which is popularly called. I think it is the advantage with this vaccine is that it is a single dose vaccine as opposed to two doses with other vaccines. And the efficacy is not very great, probably about 65 to 70%, I would say. And I don't think that is available in India as well, but it is available in the Europe now. And there have been sort of very rare vascular events, like, the clots, which everybody is talking about these days. This vaccine has been known to cause clots in a very, 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 very small population. Probably they have reported about, maybe I'm not sure if I'm completely right, but probably about 14 or 15 cases amongst the millions of people that have received vaccine so far. Um, and I think the two vaccines that we need to discuss probably in a little bit more detail are the AstraZeneca or the Covishield vaccine, which is most commonly available in India. This is basically an adenovirus, which is a different type of virus. Basically, it is a wild virus which cannot replicate in the human body. This is a chimpanzee virus which they have taken, and it is an adenovirus vector which is used, and you give an intramuscular injection or a subcutaneous injection, and it is known to produce immunity. And the efficacy is decent with this vaccine. It is about 70% and goes up to 90% in some people, depending on how many doses they have taken and what sort of immunity that their body is capable of producing. And this is again a two-dose vaccine. It can The second dose can be taken anywhere between 4 to 12 weeks after the first dose has been given, and especially considering the shortage that is going on currently all over the world, and especially in India, I don't think people are getting their second doses on time. Probably there is a waiting period currently, and I think people should understand that it is okay to take this second dose of the vaccine even up to 3 months. They don't have to necessarily take it at 4 weeks as they were told earlier, and they can go on taking it up to 12 weeks. And this whole thing about the clot formation, which is associated with Covishield or the AstraZeneca vaccine, this especially became a big issue in majority of the European countries, at least, and some of them went on to sort of ban it. So it was that severe. But if you look at the actual population that has received, probably about 34 million people have received this vaccine already all over the world, and the cases are very few. Like they run in hundreds. The clot formation is in around probably about 150 to 200 people have developed clots, especially in the brains that I'm talking about, and probably they have updated recent numbers. I'm not sure, but what I'm trying to highlight is the fact that the risk of clot formation is extremely small, and that is more probably more common in women of younger age, and that is why people are not really giving this vaccine in women of younger age, of the childbearing age, or people who are on already oral contraceptive pills, or people who are on who are at higher risk of forming clots. But rest of the population, the elderly population who are especially at risk of developing a severe disease, definitely need to go and take this vaccine because the benefits clearly outweigh the risks of clot formation.
And what do you think of the transmission thing? That the 6 feet. What kind of protocol you guys follow in the hospitals that you work in?
I mean, it becomes difficult to follow those sort of restrictions in the hospital because we are working closely with the patients and closely with doctors. 6 feet is definitely not possible. But the advantage, the precautions that we take in the hospitals is quite standard, and everybody wears a personal protective equipment. Everybody wears a good N95 mask when you're going in contact with a patient who is needing oxygen or any aerosol generating procedure. So thereby, I think there have been a lot of studies which have happened amongst hospital and healthcare workers in general, who have caught coronavirus infection, and people who have used standard isolation practices and standard personal protective equipment (PPE) practices. I don't think there is a higher incidence of you catching an infection if you follow proper, infection control measures. um, that's what I would say. And about this, the airborne transmission that you were talking about, I've read about this a little bit recently. I've not gone into too much detail, but I think initially it was very clear that it was a droplet spread. Like, when you cough or sneeze, or when you breathe hard, like, when you talk, sometimes the respiratory droplets can come out, and that can cause infection. That still remains to be the most common mode of catching an infection. But I think there have been sort of concerns about whether this can be airborne, and whether 6 feet is really enough or not. I think they went on to do some studies in public transport like buses and prisons, and where, the closed the 6 feet distance is not really possible. And there are like concerns whether, this can spread to longer distances and can stay in the air for a longer time. I don't think there is a proper answer as of now, but I think they have started recognizing that it is possible. And I think it's a simple thing. Again, it all boils down to what precautions you're taking, whether you're washing your hands regularly, whether you're using a hand sanitizer, whether you're always using a mask when you're out in the public. So it all boils down to, again, the basics and the social distancing measures that you need to follow according to government guidelines, really.
Okay. One of the questions that I wanted to ask, which I want to take both of your view, is given this is like a once in a century sort of an event that usually doesn't happen, what are the positives that you see, right? I mean, assuming that this goes through and we put this to bed once for all, what are the positives that we see coming out of this pandemic? I mean, there's a new awareness, there is, priority for healthcare, things of that sort. This is one question that I wanted to ask, and I wanted to give both of you equal time on that.
At least from a clinical point of view, and from what we have seen, at least in the UK, the second wave seems to be over because we have not really seen many cases in the last few weeks, or probably close to a month or a month and a half now, and hopefully it's all dying down. But I think if you want to take the positives out of it, probably the way sort of people responded, the way sort of the doctors and the whole public responded, at least in countries like UK, was really good. As in the way they respected each other, the way the kindness that was shown, and the teamwork that went into all of this was really good. And people probably started appreciating human life a bit more when all of this started. In general, rather than thinking about one individual in particular, they started thinking about communities in general and what needs to be done as a nation or a state together, rather than thinking about just one person or one family. Um, and from a clinical point of view, I think it has shown that research can happen quickly, and quicker than at least how it happens in general. And there is definitely scope to produce newer medicines, newer vaccines in a shorter period of time, as opposed to taking decades to just develop one single drug or one single vaccine. And probably this would help, like, patients who are suffering from many other diseases, who have been waiting for, say, either vaccines or newer interventions which need to come into sort of the market. And I think overall, probably government has started realizing that more amount of budget needs to be allotted for healthcare, at least in countries like India, wherein a very negligible amount goes for healthcare expenditure. I think they have started. Hopefully, they have started realizing that more amount of money needs to be spent into this, and a lot of research, like native research needs to happen, especially in bigger countries like India, because there we are still, like, because I have been trained in India, even though I've been working here for the last few years. Most of the data and most of the evidence that we use is all either US based or European based data that we use, like, to treat Indian patients. And the Indian patients are different genetically, and they have their own set of, like, healthcare issues. And probably more amount of research, the DRDO, the IISc, they're doing a lot of research now, and which was never seen in the past, or at least public didn't know about the amount of research that they were doing, and all of this is being highlighted now. Probably these would be the take-home points, and yeah, I think these are the sort of things that I can highlight from the end of this pandemic, I think.
So, what do you think, and what are the research pipelines that you have insight for your company, as well as, let's say, bigger companies are looking at it? The positives out of this.
Okay. Yeah, I worked in pharma industry for a good number of years now. Most of it is from the U.S. pharma industry, so the training was very good there. As I returned to India, there's no funding for research. Number one, the basic research is gone. Nobody's doing any basic research anymore. Whereas MITs, Harvards, and every Stanford, every of those institutes do a lot of basic research. That basic research is transformed to a product through the pharmaceutical companies, and the pharmaceutical companies make the product, you know, out into the market. So there's a good collaboration. If you go to the MIT, all the biotech startup companies work with MIT and Harvard. Same thing with Stanford. All the biotech companies in the Silicon Valley, they work with the Stanford and other universities around there. So we don't have that kind of ecosystem in India to do the basic research, suddenly jump in and, oh yeah, we need to do research. Where's the money? I mean, if I apply for a government grant, that's 50 lakhs. Peanuts, 50 lakhs, what can you do? What can you do?
Societally, any positives that you see from the ecosystem?
So the positives is that is, I mean, right now, as I said, that we need to have more resilience and not jumping into this WhatsApp and social media. You need to avoid those social medias and listen to them. This is what happened, and unfortunately, a lot of people are now not following anymore those social media apps, and that is very, very good thing that's happening. Number one. Number two is that people are ready to know. I mean, I get calls from strangers saying that, what do I do? Right? Because they know that I work in pharma industry. I may give them a better management of their disease. So people are aware that there are experts out there. We need to talk to them. These are, another positive thing came out is that the U.S. collaboration now. The U.S. doctors are consulting with Indian doctors also. It's a two-way process. Indian doctors are also advising American doctors. American doctors are advising Indian doctors. So it's kind of a two-way approach now. We have a good way of handling this disease better than protocol-driven treatments that has actually put us into a brink of uh, nightmare basically. And but anyway, I think Indians are very brilliant because they go everywhere outside and they excel very well. And in India also, we need to give the scope for Indian researchers to excel. uh, and that's I think pandemic brought that enlightenment into research community as well as the government officials. Oh, we do need to spend money and do the basic research. In fact, India is one of the largest supporters of the vaccine now. I mean, they export it to so many countries, the Covishield and Covaxin too. So this is where we are excelling into the manufacturing industry. We should also excel in the basic research as well. I think there are lots of positives because a lot of research is going on now. Everybody is jumping into corona research in India. We're doing innovation and coming out with whether you talk about a diagnostic or a therapeutic or any what do you call it, prophylactic. People are working and jumping on all these aspects. In fact, as you said, DRDO and IAC are also working. DRDO just said that we have 2-deoxyglucose. I don't know much about 2-deoxyglucose to be honest, but I'm hoping that that drug will have an impact in Indian populations to reduce the corona. So there are lots of positive things are happening, and then we have to watch out. And instead of criticizing the government, we should be positively promoting the government to promote the research and funding. Yeah.
Darshan, do you have a final summary of things to take care? This is purely from a clinical standpoint. Uh, some of the to-do things for people to remember from, or people to take home from the entire discussion. If you can summarize that only from the clinical point of view, that'll be great.
I think that the first and the foremost thing that people and general public should understand um, is to avoid like misconceptions. Like they should start finding the truth, and they should start believing in scientific evidence and what the experts have to say rather than just following all the blind beliefs and just taking whatever comes their way. And
Easiest would be to consult a physician as quickly as possible, right?
yes, so there are teleconsultations available now, which are not available before. So that is, yes, talk to your physician is the first and foremost important thing that they need to do as soon as they start showing symptoms of coronavirus disease, irrespective of the stage and the symptoms that they get. Like if they have a doubt, talk to your doctor. Assess, get assessed, and get the appropriate treatment rather than taking whatever is available in the market. The second thing would be to get your vaccine as soon as possible. I think Indian government has sort of started this registration process for vaccinating everybody over 18 years, which is an amazing sort of a deal that that they made. And they started this first. They should don't go by these side effects of the vaccine. And I clearly remember that people were refusing to take vaccines earlier, and a lot of vaccine doses went waste. And now, like that, everybody is getting infected. Everybody wants it, and it is not available. So when you get an opportunity, do take the vaccine. And number three would be practice social distancing very strictly, because that is the only thing that can save and that can save the country and population in general. And maintain hand hygiene measures, stay hydrated, stay physically active, because there's one study which has come out recently which says that physically active people don't get like severe disease, and it is almost like as efficacious as a vaccine. So try and stay healthy is the bottom line. Um, so yeah, this is what I would say. And watch out for the warning signs if you get infected, and don't delay treatment after that, because if you come to us in an end stage disease, then there is nothing that anybody can do. So watch out for warning signs, but don't go on to the other extreme. As soon as you have something, like contact your doctor, try and go to the hospital, and of course it is difficult to get a bed nowadays, but I think that process should start early, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so with that, we'll just wind up the call. Essentially, thanks, Darshan. Thanks, for joining on this discussion about COVID and its various possibilities. It comes at an opportune time because people are looking for information and there's not a great source. And this, hopefully, if people watch it, will be a great source of information for people who are interested in this. Thanks a lot.